Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So we welcome everyone to today's Bhagvatam class. And today is a very, very auspicious day of Lord Nrsingadev's appearance. So let us discuss something from Srimad Bhagvatam, 7th canto, which is a couple of chapters in glorification of Lord Nrsingadev. So, we all know Lord Nrsingadev appeared for Prahlad Maharaj. Therefore, Prahlad Maharaj is the best person to glorify Lord Nrsingadev. So, whilst glorifying Lord Nrsingadev, how Prahlad became a very dear devotee of Lord Nrsingadev, what qualities or what understanding Prahlad Maharaj has had, we'll discuss few things from that. Okay. So basically teachings of Prahlad Maharaj. So we'll first chant Jai Radha Madhava. Please help me, call upon Radha Madhava to bless me so that I be able to speak some glorification of Lord Nrsingadev and some teachings of Prahlad Maharaj, and of course call upon the mercy of Radha Madhava so that we can properly understand this Srimad Bhagavatam. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivara Dhari, Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivara Dhari, Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana, Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivara Dhari, Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivara Dhari, Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana, Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jai Gurudev. Jai Om Vishnupada Brahmams Paripajakacarya Stotra Shatashi Srimad Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki ISKCON BBD Founder Srila Prabhupada ki ISKCON Guru Vrinda ki Shri Guru Parampara ki Grantara Srimad Bhagvatam ki Nitai Gopremanande. All glorious assembled devotees, all glorious assembled devotees, all glorious assembled devotees, always, always, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Sthapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavanksha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Se Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitam Shah हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिकाकांत राधा कांत नमस्तुते तप्त कंचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानं पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नमः ओम विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रस्थाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य शतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम राम हरे हरे Hare Krishna. So we'll read from Srimad Bhagvatam, Canto 7, Chapter 6. Prahlad instructs his demonic schoolmates. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Everyone can repeat after me. Shri Prahlad Uvacha Kumar Acharya Pragya Dharma Bhagavatam Iha Durlabham Manusham Janma Tad Api Adruvam Arthadam Shri Prahlad Uvacha Kumar Acharet Pragya Dharman Bhagavataniha Durlabham Manusham Janma Tadapi Adruvam Arthadam Shri Prahlad Uvacha Kumar Acharet Pragya Dharman Bhagavataniha Durlabham Manusham Janma Tadapi Adruvam Arthadam.
What does the power of the devotee mean? One who has complete faith in the instructions of his spiritual master, he becomes
Sri Prahlad Uvacha Kumara Acharit Pragya Dharman Bhagavatan Iha Durlabham Manusham Janma Api Adruvam Arthadam.
Shri Prahlad Uvacha Kumar Acharit Pragyo Dharman Bhagavataniha Durlabham Manusham Janma Tat Api Adruvam Arthadam.
One more.
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Komaram Acharet Pragyo Dharman Bhagavataniha Durlabham Manusham Janma Tad Api Arthuvam Arthadam.
Shri Prahlad Uvacha. Prahlad Maharaj said, Kaumaraha, in the tender age of childhood, Acharya should practice. Pragya, one who is intelligent. Dharma, occupational duties. Bhagavatam, which are Devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Iha, in this life, Durlabham, very rarely obtained. Manusham, human, Janma, birth. Tad, that. Api, even. Adruvam, impermanent, temporary. Arthadam, full of meaning. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada ki. Prahlad Maharaj said, one who is sufficiently intelligent should use the human form of body from the very beginning of life, in other words, from the tender age of childhood, to practice the activities of devotional service, giving up all other engagements. The human body is most rarely achieved, and although temporary like other bodies, it is meaningful because in human life one can perform devotional service. Even a slight amount of sincere devotional service can give one complete perfection. Purport. The whole purpose of Vedic civilization and of reading the Vedas is to attain the perfect stage of devotional service in the human form of life. According to the Vedic system, therefore, from the very beginning of life, the brahmacharya system is introduced so that from one's very childhood, from the age of 5 years, one can practice modifying one's human activities so as to engage perfectly in devotional service. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 2:40, Swalpamapi asya dharmasya trayato mahato bhayat. Even a little advancement on this path can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear. Modern civilization, not referring to the Vedics of Vedic literature, is so cruel to the members of human society that instead of teaching children to become brahmacharis, it teaches mothers to kill their children even in the womb, on the plea of curbing the increase of population. And if by chance a child is saved, he is educated only for sense gratification. Gradually, throughout the entire world, human society is losing interest in the perfection of life. Indeed, men are living like cats and dogs, spoiling the duration of their human lives by actually preparing to transmigrate again to the degraded species among the 8.4 million forms of life. The Krishna consciousness movement is anxious to serve human society by teaching people to perform devotional service, which can save a human being from being degraded again to animal life. As already stated by Prahlad Maharaj, Bhagavata Dharma consists of Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam. In all the schools, colleges and universities and at home, all children and youth should be taught to hear about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In other words, they should be taught to hear the instructions of Bhagavad Gita, to put them into practice in their lives, and thus to become strong in devotional service, free from fear of being degraded to animal life. Following Bhagavad Dharma has been made extremely easy in this age of Kali. The Shastra says, Hare Ranam, Hare Ranam, Hare Ranam eva kevalam, kalu nasti eva, nasti eva, nasti eva gatir anyatha. One need only chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Everyone engaged in the practice of chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra will be completely cleansed from the core of his heart and be saved from the cycle of birth and death. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Tama Krishna Goswami Iti Nama. So, this is Prahlad Maharaj beginning to speak. And Prahlad Maharaj is speaking this with his classmates, with his friends in the school, who are all children of various demons. So, very nicely Prabhupada translates, and Prabhupada's choice of words are very, very beautiful. So, number one, Prabhupada says, translates it, Prahlad Maharaj said, one who is sufficiently intelligent. One need not be a very, very big jnani to be able to engage in Krishna consciousness. Because the process is so simple. Krishna is very simple. Krishna's appearance is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna in Vrindavan, in itself is a very simple message. Krishna is a simple village boy. This is all we can do in Kali Yuga. We are all, when it comes to spiritual life or spiritual pursuit, we can only do something very simple. When it comes to material life, we can take to very complicated things and we make our lives very, very complex. But Krishna consciousness is very, very simple. Therefore, one need not be very, very intelligent. Just sufficiently intelligent. What should we be able to do? What is sufficient intelligence? Sufficient intelligence is just having the ability or patience to hear the words of the scriptures, right? Hearing, Shravanam. If you are sufficiently intelligent, you know that. Just like, when you fall sick, right? It does not need anyone to be very, very intelligent to figure out that, you need to take medicines. Just sufficient intelligence, something, our disease condition, we don't know. Who is the expert? The doctor is the expert. So, if there's a rise in your body temperature, you're coughing or whatever, you just need to go to the doctor and get yourself treated. So, there's sufficient intelligence. So, as human beings, should use the human form of body from the very beginning of life. This body is meant to be used. Everyone, we all use our body. Either we use it for ourselves or this body, we are working a job. Actually, your employer has hired you for what? To use your body to achieve his goals. Your employer has a goal, he has set goal, he wants to make so much money. So, in order to make that money, he needs you. And that's why when he calls you for an interview, he just taps on your intelligence. Are you sufficiently intelligent to do my job? Sometimes you have become very well educated, but then you go for an interview, the employer does not employ you. Why? Because you may be overqualified for the job. So that is why in Krishna consciousness, just sufficiently being intelligent is good enough. Sometimes it's very difficult when you are overly intelligent. Then Krishna is guiding us to do things in life, right? They will say, Krishna is the protector, Krishna is the maintainer. But an overly intelligent person, he thinks, Krishna does everything, but at the same time, we all have to do something as well. So it's intelligently trying to deny the existence and control of Krishna. So this human body is meant to be used. Just like you have your clothes, you have your shirt. So when you have your shirt and you use it, what will happen? Wear and tear. If you just keep it in the closet, if not wear it, it's not being used, right? It has no meaning for you. It's just there sitting in the closet. So similarly, when we have human life, it is meant to be used in the service of. हिंदी में कहते हैं इसको ये शरीर को भगवान की सेवा में घिसना पड़ेगा. You have to use this body for the service of Krishna. And from the tender age of childhood to practice the activities of devotional service. We may sometimes feel saddened by the fact that, oh, I came in touch with Srila Prabhupada or Prabhupada's teaching or Krishna consciousness at a later age. I should have come in touch with this knowledge much, much earlier. But nevertheless, this process is so powerful. Just like, we have our devotee children, I have children. So, we are all thinking, we are all devotees, so we have very nice little devotee children. We follow all the practices of Krishna consciousness. We do all the samskaras, so bring them up. So that the whole idea is that they be God conscious. But if you were to consider ourselves, we may have not undergone samskaras, the purificatory processes when we were born, or when we were conceived, when we were born, when we went to school. We didn't have all these samskaras, Garbhadan, Jat Karma, Vidya Arambha, all these samskaras we didn't have. But you can see, by getting in touch with the teachings of Srimad Bhagvatam, whatever stage of life we were in, we were able to be awakened by the touch of this transcendental knowledge. Jnana Deepena Bhashvata, by the light of this transcendental knowledge. So whilst Prahlad Maharaj is saying we should start Krishna consciousness from the tender age, but please be rest assured that there need not be any regret, because at any point in time, the process is so powerful that it will enlighten you. Srila Prabhupada came to the Western world and he preached to the young people. Or not only young people, whoever came in touch with, they were all involved in the most sinful activities you can imagine. They were doing all this. But this transcendental sound vibration and the teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam. Prabhupada knew that the whole potency lies in Srimad Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. You read Prabhupada Lilamrita, I hope you have all come across this incident when Prabhupada's manuscripts were stolen. This is the point here, that when we know we should use the human form. Srila Prabhupada knew the importance of the teaching, the impact of the teaching, the effect of the teaching. So Prabhupada didn't become discouraged. I think, any 70-year-old man, you translate, your whole manuscript gets misplaced, you will just simply give up. You'll simply give up. And then maybe the next round you are trying to do it, it might take, so many years to do it. But Srila Prabhupada, he was so enthusiastic to do it. Why was he enthusiastic to do it? Simply for us. Srila Prabhupada was already in a perfect situation. He had lived his life fully. He retired in Vrindavan. What more do we want? I'm sure I know, we as devotees, we all aspire that, I'll make so much money and then I will retire in Vrindavan. I will buy an apartment in Mayapur or Vrindavan and then I'll just chant and, So Prabhupada says, he told Tamal Krishna Maharaj, Tamal Krishna Maharaj said, my Gurudev said that, he was always waiting that Prabhupada would retire in Vrindavan and then he'll go into Samadhi. Prabhupada said, just walk now, Samadhi later. And Prabhupada, in his final pastimes, Prabhupada was taking his last breath, but he was translating Srimad Bhagavatam. This is Prabhupada's blood and sweat, whole of Prabhupada's devotional service. The Bhaktivedanta purpose are Prabhupada's devotion. We all say Prabhupada is a pure devotee. So how do you experience Prabhupada's pure devotion? Prabhupada's pure devotion is his purpose. That is why, if we want to make spiritual progress, if you want to understand God at all, no one can do it better than Srila Prabhupada. That is why Srila Prabhupada's books are so important. That brings to my mind the point that, we always have this Bhadra campaign, for distribution of Srimad Bhagvatam. I see this wonderful devotee, making effort to distribute books. And there you see on the wall also, how many millions of books, Prabhupada's books have been printed and distributed. How many of us have Srimad Bhagvatam sets? Okay, very good. Those of you who don't have, please get one. Please do get one. I'm sure the temple can make arrangements for you for the Bhagavatam set, if you can acquire it all at once, or make installment payments, and you can still acquire yourself a set of Bhagavatam. So, coming back to the point that Srila Prabhupada, by his example, he showed how he utilized his human body for the progress of Krishna consciousness. Just like you do an experiment in the lab, so you first read the theory, then you go to the lab, and then you follow the steps, and the result the outcome will be guaranteed. But if you tweak the process somewhere, the outcome will be different. The lab result will change. So we have to engage our bodies in the service of Krishna. And better still, Prahlad Maharaj says, if you can do it from childhood, but at the same time, by the very compassion of Srila Prabhupada, we can do it, we can pick up Krishna consciousness at any point in time. So, to practice the activities of devotional service, we have to practice. You have to practice. Just like you want to do some weight loss, then you take to the treadmill, or you take to some, enroll yourself in some gym, and then you follow it. So we have to practice devotional service. You practice by chanting one round, The Prabhupada writes here, and the Prabhupada, Prahlad Maharaj has already, in the earlier chapter, has already talked about Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedam. And Prabhupada writes here, Prahlad Maharaj said, giving up all other engagements. So you practice Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam by giving up all other engagements. Now this does not mean that we leave our job, leave our family, because of course, here we are having the Bhagavatam class at this hour, 8 to 9. So what you all need to do is simply give up other engagements during this period. And then you will be able to do Shravanam. Similarly, Archanam, the deities are not being worshipped the whole day. There's not that the arati is going on whole day. There are five or three scheduled aratis. So you just have to give up. When it's your rostered service, it's your opportunity to serve. Krishna's choice that you serve him, then you just simply have to give up other engagements. Somebody will say, giving up other engagements is difficult, Prabhuji, how do we do it? But everything else in life, we prioritize, except for Krishna consciousness. No matter what, if some emergency happens, what do? You just drop everything and attend to the emergency. The greatest emergency that we have is we can all die at any moment. That's the greatest emergency. How many of us know that we are going to die? When are we going to die? We don't know when. And if we had not come in contact with Krishna consciousness or Srila Prabhupada, even to answer, say, how many of us we know that we are going to die, we wouldn't know. We are so engaged in our material consciousness. The human body is most rarely achieved. I think this is very, very important point to understand. You only value something when you know, just like we have money, right? like, especially many of us come from, India or have that background. Back in our villages or back in our setting, we had life where we would not have so much wealth, right? And that is why when you come here, you want to work 2 shifts. I don't know if it's possible to work 3 shifts, but you'd want to do this because you know the value of money. You know the value of money. How do you know the value of money? Because you didn't have money. Similarly, when you study the scriptures, then you understand that all this while you have been going through the cycle of birth and death through the 8 million species of life. 400,000 is human beings. So 8 million species of life you've been going through, and therefore this is, if you consider the 8.4 million species of life, one human life is a rare achievement. One, or even if you put 400,000 and over 8 million, what would be the fraction? It is very, very rare. It's very, very rare. So, it is rarely achieved. And although it is temporary, it is not different from other species of life. All the species of life, what are we doing? Eating, sleeping, mating and defending. All living entities do this. Right? Eating, sleeping, mating and defending. There is only human form of life which has the capacity or ability to sit like this and discuss Krishna consciousness. We don't see animals, all sitting down like this, and having a Bhagvatam class in their tabela. No, it doesn't happen like that. They don't have sufficient intelligence to do that. But we have. We do have. And thus we should. It is meaningful because in human life, one can perform devotional service. Devotional service can only be, you hear in the scriptures various stories of, some animal got liberated by the touch of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. These are examples of the magnanimity of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Or some animal ate some little prasadam and they became liberated. This is the potency of prasadam. But these are very rare happenings. It is not a common thing. That we are distributing prasadam to the animals and they are all getting liberated. We are distributing prasadam to the human beings. So things that you can do in human form of life, it is very, very rare. So even a slight amount of sincere devotional service can give one complete perfection. I think, if we just took this verse, this word, there's a whole chapter of instructions by Prahlad Maharaj, but just focusing on the first instruction that he is giving to his classmates, a slight amount of sincere devotional service, very sincerely. You're coming to Krishna and praying very sincerely to Krishna for your salvation, for transcendental knowledge. That can give one complete perfection. Because as soon as that one little realization comes, your whole life changes. Your whole focus changes. Srila Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj writes in the 7th of the 7th, he's writing about Srila Prabhupada. And he said, when he met Srila Prabhupada said to him that just give this one life to me. We are all eternal. We are all parts and parcels of Krishna and therefore we are all eternal. So in that eternity, if we just gave this life to Krishna, this life of 60, 70, 80, 90, maybe maximum 100 years. So you put 100 over eternity. What's the value? Insignificant. So Prabhupada is not asking anything more. It's just like, basically you have chutta and you don't care for it. No. So this life is just chutta. But this chutta can give us chutti from the cycle of birth and death. So just one life. Just one life. And again, Krishna consciousness is so beautiful. Prahlad Maharaj is saying that it is so beautiful that once we engage ourselves in Krishna consciousness, Krishna also does not stop us from our regular duties. There is regulated sense gratification also allowed in the Grihastha ashram. When you talk of brahmacharis, brahmacharis does not simply mean, being celibate, but brahmachari means Brahma acharan. When you are studying the scriptures. That is why bygone days, Vedic history, as soon as, basically the same principle, when the child is 5 years old, you send them to school. And the Vedic tradition was send them into the boarding school. You send them to the ashram of the spiritual master. And what do they learn in the ashram of the spiritual master? They learn about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, right? Because that's the goal of life. But at the same time, they learn austerity, they learn transcendental knowledge, they learn how to balance life with Krishna consciousness. Because the ultimate goal is Krishna consciousness. So some of the brahmacharis will fully devote themselves, and therefore they do not choose to do any material activity. Any material activity means they choose not to enter into family life. Entering into family life means you have to work a job, you have to maintain your family, you need to have a home, you need to feed the family. But that is not denied in the scriptures. It is not denied in the scriptures. You look at all great devotees. Prahlad Maharaj himself was a Grihastha. Prabhupada had been a Grihastha. Bhaktivinoda Thakur was a Grihastha. Advaita Acharya is a Grihastha. So these are classic examples of how you can execute Krishna consciousness, which is more practical to you and I. So we learn in the brahmachari ashram, or in that period of life, 5 years to 25 years, we learn the scriptures. When you learn the scriptures, then we learn the techniques of living a Krishna conscious family life. This is exactly what Prahlad Maharaj is saying to his classmates, that we need to practice devotional service and practice it with sincerity. Sincerity. So one interesting question may come up. Somebody will ask devotees, please, Prabhuji, chant Hare Krishna. So basically the response will be, I'm chanting 1 round but sincerely, as opposed to 16 rounds. So there again, the technique to handle 16 rounds sincerely is to first go for quantity and then work on the quality. First get into the practice of chanting 16 rounds. Then you can, just like you wanting to make milk sweets, right? You want to make milk sweet. The end result is, it starts with boiling a whole pot of milk. You keep boiling it, you keep boiling it, you keep boiling it, then it comes to condensed milk, then you can make mawa or milk fudge. Right? But if in the beginning, you just decided to put little milk, how much of a mawa will you get? So that's the rationale. In your Krishna consciousness, first go for the quantity. First, make an effort, build up your 16 rounds. Building up your 16 rounds is sincerity itself. You want to achieve the minimum standard. Once you are able to do that, then you focus on the quality of chanting. Because when you start doing 16 rounds, that is when. What did Bhaktivinoda Thakur say? Bhaktivinoda Thakur, if anyone does not chant 64 rounds, you are not a Vaishnava. you're not a devotee. So Prabhupada came to the Western world, he said 64 rounds. So all the devotees, very sincere devotees, they made an effort. They made an effort, they said, Prabhupada, it's not possible. It does not mean they were not sincere. They, on Prabhupada's words, they gave a shot at 64. But of course it was not practical, so they said, Prabhupada, not possible. So Prabhupada said 32. Prabhupada halved it. So Prabhupada said 32. They were sincere, they gave it a shot at 32. Then they couldn't do it again. They said, Prabhupada, not possible. So then Prabhupada said, not less than 16. So that's the beginning. That's the beginning. So when you're chanting 16 rounds, that means in Krishna consciousness, just like a small child, you started walking. You started walking. If you're not chanting 16 rounds, you may be still, very much a baby, we need to carry you, or you are crawling, something like that. So, again, Prahlad Maharaj is saying that, if we very sincerely try, then there's a possibility of complete perfection. So, furthermore, the human form of life affords one a chance to return home back to Godhead. Therefore, every living entity, especially in the human form of life, must engage in devotional service to the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu. This devotional service is natural because Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the most beloved, the master of the soul, and the well-wisher of all other living beings. This is natural for us. It's just a matter of awakening it. So Prabhupada gives an example. He gives an example of wood, timber. This timber has fire within it. But can you see it? But as soon as you put this wood to a burning wood, this wood will also exhibit fire. So all of us are filled with love of God, filled with love of Krishna. We all are filled with devotional service. We all love Krishna. But it is just that the material nature has manifested, made us manifest ourselves like different furniture. It's the same wood, but it's being manifested in different forms. And because it is not in the association of fire, you cannot see fire from this wood. And just like we get attracted to these different furnitures, so in our lives, we become attracted to various material engagements. And we think, we are all okay. We are not okay. So, this is a chance to return. There's a very nice English proverb, you say, it is said, opportunity knocks but once. So, human form is that opportunity. If you miss this, number one, we don't know how back we will fall into the 8,400,000 species of life. Right? So that we don't know. But one thing we know for sure is that times are deteriorating. Right? So the next time you become human being, you don't know when. And whether you'll find devotees, whether you'll find Srimad Bhagvatam, or whether you'll find this association of devotees. So that is why this is the chance. This is the opportunity. You make it or break it. You make it Krishna conscious, you go back home back to Godhead, or you lose the opportunity. And you might have to go through the complete creation process. We never know. The next opportunity. The Kali Yuga is going to be another 427,000 years or so is left. Don't know how bad in a situation we will go. So, Prahlad Maharaj is saying that it is very natural for us to get attracted. Prabhupada gives an example. Just like you have magnet, right? Magnet and iron. So magnet attracts. The magnet is, the iron doesn't get attracted to the magnet only when the iron is rusted. The magnet does not rust. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is always transcendental. That is why it is very natural for Krishna is all attractive, so he attracts. But it is only the condition of the iron. If it is too rusted, then it doesn't get pulled. The magnet doesn't get pulled. The iron gets pulled to the magnet. So, Krishna consciousness is that. It's just a matter of, just like in the morning we always recite the Shishtastakam prayer, Cheto Darpan Marjana. We just need to cleanse the mirror of the heart so that we can see ourselves. We can see the soul. That is why the first step in God realization is self-realization. You don't have to see God first. You have to see yourself first. Then only you can connect to the Supreme Self. So Prahlad Maharaj continued, "My dear friends, born of demonic families, the happiness perceived with reference to sense objects by contact with the body can be obtained in any form of life according to one's past fruitive activities. Such happiness is automatically obtained without endeavor, just as we obtain distress." This is very nice example that we work so hard in our lives to make our life happy. So we are struggling for happiness. Does anyone want distress in their life? No one wants, right? But does it come? It comes on its own accord. Tasyeva heta prayateta kovida. So intelligent person understands that just as distress comes uninvited, happiness will also come in our life. The distress and happiness is dependent on past fruitive activities. You are doing so well. We are all doing so well in this life, right? You may be thinking that, I have moved from this place to that place and therefore my life has become better. It is all the result of not this life's movement. It is not that, you applied for, green card and you got a green card and therefore you moved here. It is not this the result of what you are doing now. It is all result of your previous life's karma. So it is destined. That this is what you will go through. And you will not be able to change the present. I can guarantee you cannot change the things that is happening in your life, you cannot change it. Because this is already trees bearing fruits of your previous life. What you can definitely change is what's going to happen in the future. That is what Prahlad Maharaj is talking about to his classmates. So, whatever you do now is the making of your future. And that is why Prahlad Maharaj is saying, what we need to do now, even from our childhood, is practice of devotional service. You have to practice devotional service. Don't worry about pure devotional service as yet. We just have to simply get into the practice. Just like we do driving a car. Initially, when the child grows up, he practices. What does he practice? He moves the car out of the garage and puts it back. Or even before that, if he wants to learn how to drive, the father will ask him, to clean the car, do these kind of things. Or if there's a punctured tire, just change that. So that is how you get in touch. Then one day also, as you grow by age, then you come to a legal age to drive. Even before legal age, what you can do is drive into the garage, out of the garage. Make a little bumps here and there and do all these things. But you are starting the practice. And then as you come of legal age, then you can sit on the steering and go and drive on the road. And as your experience grows, you do better. Then you come to a stage of driving a racing car. You can overspeed as well. So in Krishna consciousness, we just have to take to the practice of Krishna consciousness. And let it be any sincere service. Many times, when you go for pilgrimage, those of you who have been to pilgrimage, gone to Vrindavan or Mayapur, you go there and devotees will meet you, greet you, and they will ask, Prabhuji, where are you from? So you'll say, I'm from Calgary, I'm from Ishkon, Calgary. So Prabhuji, what's your service? What's your seva? That's the identity before Krishna. When you come before Krishna, Krishna doesn't see you are white, you are black, you are brown, you are old, you are young, you are man, you are woman. Radha Madhav, when the curtains open, Radha Madhav is seeing everyone. How does he see? He does not see whether you have put on the lipstick or not. Radha Madhav sees what service have you done today. What service have you done today? And service is what Krishna recognizes. I'm sure all of you remember that story of Krishna's headache. When the queens of Dwarka, they felt that they are very, very pious, that's why they've got Krishna as their husband. So Krishna immediately had this pastime of headache where, he said, he showed the gopis of Vrindavan were greater devotees because they were all always ready to serve Krishna in whatever way it meant. If it means, saving Krishna and going to hell, then so be it. Similar prayer is there by Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj's prayer was that, he would like to suffer hell in exchange for salvation of all living entities. So, Prahlad Maharaj's service. When we serve Krishna like this, then Krishna personally takes care of the devotee. And of course, you all know the story of Lord Nrsingadev's appearance. But the Acharyas explain the important point being that when we become pure devotees like Prahlad Maharaj, then Krishna, of course Krishna is Abhigya Swarat, Krishna is independent, and therefore Krishna can do anything and everything. But you see, Krishna, for his devotees, can do something out of the norm. If you see Krishna's various incarnations, Krishna came as, Matsya, Krishna came as tortoise, Krishna came as, various incarnations that he has taken before taking the form of Nrsingadev. Do you see that all the various incarnations, the boa incarnation, all of them are all within the norm of the laws of material nature, right? Not that Krishna is anyway comes under the influence of material nature, but Krishna respected the laws of material nature. Therefore, there is one species of life which is called fish. So Krishna came as Matsya. Where Hiranyaksha, the brother of Hiranyakashipu, took the earth underwater, Krishna came as Varahadev to uplift the earth again. Right? So Krishna does this. But here, when the message is that when we are very sincere devotees, and again, Prahlad Maharaj is a little boy. Another very important point. Prahlad Maharaj is a little boy. Little children, they're very nice, very simple, very soft-hearted. Their simplicity, what is their simplicity you see? Oh, you see all the little children, they are all playing. They will have a fight. And the very next moment, they're playing again. They're not like, older people like you and I, that, we have a fight, then we hold the grudge, for some time, before we come to a realization that, this is no point holding it. So again, Krishna, when we are saying, we are to become devotees of Krishna, we need to be very simple at heart like this. So when we are devotees like this, then you can see Lord Krishna does out of the norm. There is no species, half man, half lion. But Krishna does that for his devotee, to fulfill his promise that my devotees are always protected. My devotees are always protected. All Prahlad Maharaj did was Ananayas Chintayanto Mam, always constantly remembering Krishna. If you are constantly remembering Krishna, we all in our lives, we don't go through difficulties like what Prahlad Maharaj, we don't get thrown at the foot of elephants. We don't get thrown off the cliff. We don't get deep fried like pakoras. Prahlad Maharaj went through everything. Yet, he was always saved. He was always saved. Why was he saved all the time? Because of his practice of devotional service. And Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport, in the concluding last paragraph, Prabhupada writes, the Shastras say, one need only chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Everyone engaged in the practice of chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra will be completely cleansed from the core of the heart. Very important point again. From the core of the heart. This is the potency of the mantra. Whatever other mantra you want to chant, you can chant, no problem. You can chant whatever you like to chant. But the only difficulty with those chanting is, it does not clean your heart from the core. And unless and until the heart is cleansed from the core, you will not overcome the cycle of birth and death. In our ordinary lives, we want others to love us, You want your wife to love you. But can you have your wife loving you with half heart? Or the husbands, you want your husband to love you. Can you have your husband love you with half heart? His heart is divided, different places. No. Even in the material world, we have dispute over that. So Krishna also, he wants Buddha Bhava Samanvita. Krishna wants your heart completely. And how do you give your heart completely? How is it possible to give your heart completely? Srila Prabhupada quotes the scriptures, says in this age of Kali, it is simply by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. Just make every effort. This is how we call upon Krishna. Make every effort to chant sincerely. Chant 16 rounds very nicely. Then Krishna will immediately manifest. Just like Lord Nrsimhadev was already sitting in the pillar. When Hiranyakashipu attacked, he was in the pillar, he came out of the pillar. So Krishna is sitting in our hearts. He is already in there. You don't have to get Krishna from external somewhere. Krishna is already there. Now, it is up to us. If we behave like Hiranyakashipu, what do you expect? Krishna from the heart will come out and tear us apart. How does he tear us apart? We go through the cycle of repeated birth and death. But if we become devoted to Krishna, we serve Krishna. How do you serve the Paramatma in the heart? Serve through the chanting. That is how you create the connection. When you create the connection, then, like Dhruva Maharaj, when he created connection with Krishna, Paramatma appeared before him, Vishnu appeared before him, and with the Shankha and Padma, blessed Dhruva Maharaj. So we get blessed in Krishna consciousness like that. So, today's verse again, Srila Prahlad Maharaj says, one who is sufficiently intelligent should use the human form of body from the very beginning of life, in other words, from the tender age of childhood, to practice the activities of devotional service, giving up all other engagements. The human body is most rarely achieved, and although one life Although temporary like other bodies, it is meaningful because in human life one can perform devotional service. Even a slight amount of sincere devotional service can give one complete perfection. Srila Prabhupada ki. So anybody would like to make a comment or any clarification? Sadev Prabhu, would like to add something?
Well, you mentioned that we all need to endeavor, but because of our different realizations of scripture, different association, we think that we are endeavoring and we are making some advancement in understanding Krishna consciousness. However, due to the complexities of life, it's very hard to judge or even make a determination of whether one is sincere to Guru or his Shishya, or how his advancement is getting on, So it's a very judgmental position. So how can one evaluate that advancement?
See, devotional service is a condition of the heart. And I think you rightly said, and you used the right term, that even about our own self or about others, we become judgmental. And when you become judgmental, what happens is you are judging someone with your mind. With your mind. And mind is our greatest enemy. He can be a greatest friend, but he's also a greatest enemy. Krishna looks at the heart of a devotee. So one has to evaluate their own self. That is why Krishna is always saying, love, with love. Offer me fruits, flowers with love. Yome bhaktya prayachati. And when you talk about sincerity, again, how much of your heart is getting into it? This is very important. So when we read the scriptures again and again, then that develops or sets the benchmark or measuring points that we can, the yardstick that we can use to measure our own Krishna consciousness. And once you do that, then you can see how your mind is working. As long as the mind is accepting and rejecting based on external things, that means there's still a long way for us to make spiritual progress. As long as the mind sees the defects, the mind should be able to see the defects in your own self, but see the good things in others. If you can do that, that means you are making spiritual progress. If the mind is still finding faults in others, please don't give up. It is simply a message that we need to still work on it. Just like we make say rice. Prabhupada gives in Krishna book. Prabhupada gives an example of rice. So when you're cooking rice, so you just pick one grain and test whether it's cooked or not. You don't have to test every grain. Just one will give you. So just do a small test, Is my mind looking at the goodness of others? And actually, it's a very nice point. And that actually you see sometimes, this the story of 24 gurus in Srimad Bhagvatam in the 11th canto. What's the message there? The message there is, looking at all the 24 gurus, the devotee is able to see the good. And a very nice example is that of the prostitute, who was waiting for a customer and then the customer didn't turn up. The whole night she is waiting. Then she went back. Likewise, we can see good things. And that is deliberately, the Bhagavatam gives the example, when you talk of a prostitute, immediately bad things come in the mind. There is no respect, nothing like that. But there's when it's a devotee, then you can see the good, learn the good. So, we continue to make the effort, and again I get reminded of the example I gave you of 64 rounds, 32 and minimum 60. And then Prabhupada also said that, just keep to this minimum, chanting 16 rounds and worshipping Lord Chaitanya, going back home, back to Godhead is guaranteed. And Prabhupada said that, I have the key to the back door to the spiritual world. So I think, one of the difficulties, I find, and by my experience too, I found, is that, when we think something more than simple, even in Krishna consciousness we do that. Even in Krishna consciousness, sometimes we become too ritualistic. I think when you look at it, for example, and of course, it's good to improve, but just I'm taking a very, very sort of very general example. Just like when Prabhupada introduced Arati in the society, Prabhupada just got the devotees to light up the incense and keep waving the Arati until the Kirtan goes, the Agarbatti, the incense, until the Kirtan goes on. And the Kirtan should go for 15-20 minutes. Once it is good, we are researching and making things, improving things. But my personal view, experience and opinion is that we have actually introducing complicating things for own self. We are already mentally stressed by material things, and then we come to connect with God in Krishna consciousness, with Krishna in Krishna consciousness, so that we can free our minds. So, my request, don't be hard on yourself. Don't measure yourselves to very difficult things. Keep life simple and Krishna consciousness simple as well. Just chant Hare Krishna, take Krishna Prasad, and you are in the wonderful association of devotees, and every devotee, everyone comes here, render some service to Radha Madhava. Maybe it is washing the pots, sweeping the temple, worshipping the deities, helping another devotee do something, bringing a little offering to the temple. Just keep it that simple. Don't complicate it. Because the success is in simplicity of Krishna consciousness. And that is the whole, if you read the whole scripture, it's a very simple process for Kali Yuga. Just chant Hare Krishna. Just have that simple faith. Just like little children, they have a very simple faith that this is my father. That's it. Does he have to worry about food? Does he have to worry about clothing? Does he have to worry about shelter? Does he have to worry about going to school? He doesn't have to worry about anything. But as he grows and he starts having faith in his own abilities, we see there is more complications. So, it's a very simple thing. And I'm sure, Sadhava Prabhu knows this. He's asking this for the benefit of everyone. So, this is how, Parikshit Maharaj knew everything, but he asked for the benefit of everyone. Otherwise, we wouldn't have Bhagavatam and we wouldn't be enlightened today. Any other comment? Yes, Prabhuji.
You said very nicely about something that pretty well answered my question. Sometimes I've had comments about why do I need to do 16 rounds when I'm chanting all day anyways. So I'd like to share your thoughts. I think you answered my question already today.
Yeah.
If we can further share this, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Many a times we also come across many people and we also sort of believe that we are chanting all the time. But it is not actually correct that we are chanting all the time in our minds. Our minds are filled with so many things. That is why actually in response to that how do you know that your mind is fully Krishna conscious? Srimad Bhagvatam has a very nice verse. I cannot remember the Sanskrit at this point in time. But the verse is about that you can know that you are becoming Krishna conscious if while sneezing, while falling down, while sleeping, have a sleep, you can call upon Krishna. If some accident happens, you are driving a car and some accident happens, generally what will people say? Holy shit. And that combination doesn't go together, right? The shit is not holy and holy is not shit. But you see generally, I'm just being humorous. But generally, when somebody is Krishna conscious, something happens, generally if somebody is Krishna, they'll go, oh Krishna. To come to that state, you just cannot say that I want my son educated, I just send him to the school. As long as he's entered the school compound, we know he's getting educated. No, you have to make sure that he goes into the right grade, then year after year he's progressing, then one day he'll come out with a degree. So people who say, I'm just chanting in the mind, it's just like, you believe you have entered the school compound and you are getting educated. But child may enter the school compound, but he may change his clothes and go out the other door. Or maybe in the school he's in bad association. So then your child will not be successful. He will not pass the exam. So life's final exam is death. So we need to prepare for it. Therefore you need to get into the practice. This is the practice. And because the mind runs away so much, that is why you need to have chant your 16 rounds on the bead. So that by the touch of the bead, of course you get the blessings of Srimati Tulsi Maharani. But also by the touch, your mind is focused. You keep your mind, you go to the next beat, you still feel, you can still. So that is. And once you're well trained into it, you can chant without the beats because the idea is 24/7. So that is why, that's why the practical way to do it, just go for 16, just go for the quantity. When you start working on quality, then automatically it will start coming to you. Hope that helps, Prabhuji.
Very good.
Thank you. Any of the ladies? The ladies are all good. The scriptures are called Ved Mata. So all the transcendental knowledge comes from the mothers. So, wonderful. Thank you all very much. And please, forgive me if there's any harsh words, that came out of my mouth, that might have hurt you. But all the good and great is Srila Prabhupada's, and we are all indebted to Srila Prabhupada for giving us this opportunity of Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada ki, Shri Prahlad Maharaj ki, Lord Nrsimhadev Appearance Day ki, Go Premanande.